In today's video, we are on the M62 in Yorkshire.
Yorkshire born, Yorkshire bred, strong in the arm. As I say,
the specific area of the M62 that we're talking about in today's video is between junctions 21 at Milne Row and junctions 25 at Brighouse. Travelling eastbound from junction 21 or travelling westbound from junction 25 as we are doing in the video right now, you'll find two hefty inclines that will slow a lot of loaded trucks up. It's on this section of the M62 between the tops of the two climbs where you'll find a very famous house, the highest motorway in the UK, and also a couple of other things that we're going to be looking at. So let's get into it. One trucker's eye.
here is our house.
The history of the M62 is absolutely incredible. Whether that be the section that was built at Burton Woods RAF base on the former runway, or this Pennines section that we're going to be looking at today. Some parts of the M62 are incredible feats of engineering. Arguably one of the most famous buildings along any motorway section in the UK is the farmhouse that stands in the middle of the motorway. We'll talk a little bit about Stott Hall Farm a little bit later, but for me, this section that we're on right now is far more interesting. Most people drive along this section of the motorway and believe it's on a bridge, but as many other people already know, this isn't a bridge, this is a dam. Scammonden Dam spans the Deanhead Valley, and the village of Deanhead itself was submerged and many buildings demolished to make way for the reservoir. Two buildings that were part of the village remain above the water level today, those buildings being St Bartholomew's Church and the school that was next door. The school building now being used by the boat club on Scammonden Reservoir. You might also notice the two footpaths on either side of the motorway. Most drivers on this route don't even realise there are two footpaths alongside the M62 at this point, and they certainly don't realise that there's actually a subway that connects the two of them underneath the motorway. The only visible footpath along this section of the M62 is the one seen if you're travelling westbound. Now, I've passed this many times, and I've always been aware that the M62 at this point is ascending, so that footpath must be really steep. And for the longest time, I've always wondered what it would be like to walk up it. So I did. To get down to the dam, I'd already walked down this footpath, and that was bad enough. I wasn't looking forward to walking back up it. Having done the steepest part, I don't mind telling you that at this point, I was blowing out my arse. After wanting to walk up that path for many years and not getting round to it, I've realised what a stupid idea that was. But something that really isn't stupid is where that path ultimately leads you. You should just be able to make out the road on the left hand side of the screen. And at the top of that road is this very impressive structure. This is Scammonden Bridge. It's believed at the time of building the bridge, it was the longest concrete single span bridge in Europe. Driving along the M62, it really is hard to appreciate just how high the bridge actually is. It stands at 37 metres high, and its length is a total of 200 metres long. The longest span being 120 metres. Even driving across in a car, it's hard to get a perspective on the bridge's actual height, which is why I parked up the car and went for a walk. Sadly, as you enter the bridge, you will come across the signage, which points you to a very dark side of the bridge's height. Personally, I'm not a major fan of heights myself, but on this particular day, the weather was quite pleasant. However, as we see in this BBC documentary from a few years ago, this bridge needed to be designed in a certain way because of where it is. It's open to all of the elements.
Across Steenhill Cutting, the largest single-span bridge in Europe was being constructed. Covered in 70 miles of scaffolding to protect it from wind speeds of up to 110 miles per hour in the Pennine winter, it was able to withhold the weight of 1,100 tons of ice.
And with Scammonden Bridge being on one of the highest parts of the motorway in the country, wind became a big factor, especially for people crossing the bridge. At times, pedestrians and cyclists found it hard to cross the bridge without being blown over. In 2020, safety features were implemented. The new higher in-curving barriers were far better than what was there before. And according to sources, it was this bridge that was responsible for a brand new road sign. Scammonden Dam and Scammonden Bridge. Scammonden Bridge, known more locally as the Brown Cow Bridge, are not the only fantastic structures in this small area. Our next point of call looks spectacular from the M62 motorway itself, but where I'm going to take you, you can only go in a car. So for some truckers who drive down the M62 on a regular basis, this might be a completely different angle for how they view this structure. So let's get over there. That gateway on the left is the entrance to the most famous house on the M62. It's the entrance to the little house on the prairie, or as people know it, the house in the middle of the motorway. More on that in a moment, but going back to the still image, if you look at the top of the trees you'll notice a very daunting sight. That is Boothwood Dam, and it's that dam that's holding back 335,000 cubic metres of water and stopping the water from wiping me and half of this land out. The road I'm on here is Scammonden Lane, and it's well worth a detour if you're in the area, as this is an awesome sight. It wouldn't be appropriate to finish any video on this section of the M62 without the end of the video being about Stott Hall Farm. Even though this section of the M62 was built in the late 60s and subsequently opened in 1971, there are still people around today that believe the old wives' tale that a stubborn farmer refused to move from the house, and subsequently the motorway was then built around him. Now, it would be a romantic tale, but it just is not true. The chief civil engineer on the project said so himself.
There used to be a myth around for many years after the motorway being constructed that the farmer living in the house wouldn't move and refused to move, and therefore we divided the carriageways and put it round it. That in essence, sadly, is not true.
In fact, the motorway was built around the farmhouse because the land on which it was standing was unstable and had to be shored up.
So there you have it. Proof once and for all that the old stubborn farmer's tale is just that, a tale. But I always think that there's one more telltale sign that the house was built around because of the ground, and nobody else seems to notice this. But just as you pass the little house on the prairie heading westbound, you'll notice that the carriageways both come together again. But then roughly about a mile later, just towards junction 22, both carriageways split up again. I do hope you've enjoyed this particular edition of The Trucker's Eye and a look at the M62 on the Pennines. If you have enjoyed the video, then please give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't subscribed to the channel already, then please consider doing so, as that really helps me out. Notice now how far apart the carriageways are from each other. I'll see you all next time on The Trucker's Eye.